Hello again. Welcome to the Fete Finder feature. I'm Sean G, your host. Today we have another talented individual. Goes by the name of DJ Hazzard. How you doing tonight, DJ?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing all right. We're gonna pound up COVID style.
COVID style. Where is the disinfectant?
Oh, by the door. So, me, I've known you on the scene for a little bit now.
Yep.
It's quite a funny story how I don't really remember exactly how I met you.
Okay.
That's kind of my thing with a lot of people.
Sure.
I just gravitate to good energy, and that's what I do.
Yep.
Apparently you do as well.
I do.
So I feel like that's one of the reasons why you're here tonight. Today we want to go into how you became to be.
Okay.
All right. So you go by the name DJ Hazzard.
I do.
How did that name come about, sir?
Long story, but I'm gonna keep it short. So, I used to play pan growing up.
Pan is like the common theme right now.
Pan is the thing. That was the musical instrument outside of the drum set that I played. And I used to play for a band called Pan Masters, based here in DC. And every summer there was this concert series called the Bluemont Concert Series out in Virginia. And what we would do, the entire band would go and stay out in various parts of like Virginia, but just not close to the city. And one of the places we stayed was like this resort style spot that had a whole bunch of bicycles. And we all went, I was the youngest person there. So we all go on this bike ride. And I don't know, I guess I was wilding out. And I don't think I fell, but I was doing some real wild stuff. And at that point, one of my dad's friends, who was also part of the band, called me a hazard, right? So I was like, whatever. So it was really just them mocking me, whatever. And that became my nickname in the pan yard. So when I picked up DJing a couple years later, we were looking for a name. And I looked for everything. And my dad was just like, DJ Hazzard. I was like, oh, I guess. All right, cool. That's what we're going to go with. So that's how I got that name.
Okay. So what or who influenced you into becoming a DJ?
Yeah, so my influence has to be my dad. He was one of the first Caribbean DJs in DC back in like the late 70s, early 80s. Back then, it was a super close-knit like community. Now we're still close-knit, but not like how it was back then, right? Like back then, it was literally only few places to go for a soca party or a reggae party or whatever it is. Now, there's more options, so it's just a little bit different. And like he was just that guy, right? So take it back to the same era. Think about mixtapes. So we all rock boom boxes, right? And back then, what we
after.
That's right. But back then, what we would do is we would take a blank cassette, put it in into the boom box, listen to the radio, and try to catch the DJ that's on the radio to record the songs you want, pressing pause in between, to make sure that you had your own little mixtape. Yeah. I figured, well, my dad's a DJ. I can kind of create my own mixtape. So I asked him one day, I was like, hey, what can you do to show me how to do the mechanics of this or whatever? He did it, made my mixtape. For me, it was everything I needed because it was just literally an authentic mixtape that I made for myself that I could listen to. I was listening to it one day and he overheard it. And from then he was like, the blending's not the greatest, but his cuts are on time. So from then he kind of took me under his wing and tried to help me understand the structure of music a little bit differently, and I haven't turned back since.
Okay. So what was your first true gig?
First true gig. I'm gonna answer that in a couple ways. First true gig was actually a wedding that my dad was actually hired for. As a DJ now, I would never let my sons play at a wedding that I'm DJing for. But he had faith in me, and I rocked out, I guess, accordingly. So that worked out. It was probably the first time I really felt like, okay, I can actually do this, But I was super young. I was maybe 14 or 15.
Oh.
I was super young. But then, like my first like true gig, like DJ Hazzard gig.
Yeah, DJ Hazzard.
Oh, that has to be right before college. So it was like in between high school and college. Silver Spring Caribbean style restaurant and the Clubhouse were like the two poppin' places where if you were of Caribbean descent, or you wanted to hear soca in particular, but some dancehall too, like that's where you would go.
Gotcha.
And I started actually playing with Spray International. Like that would probably be my second influence, personally. And I was part of his crew. Me, Majestic, Ghost, like a whole bunch of us were a part of that crew. And I remember the first time they let me slide in. And I mean, it felt like I was the king of the world, right? Like I didn't get to play that long because I finally got the tap on the shoulder, which usually means, nah, you need to come off. Like, you're not really ready. But in the moment, like I felt like, I was like, this is for me. This is for me.
Okay. So after that, what was your, like, I've seen you on a couple of stages.
Sure.
All right. So how does one, let's talk about one, how does one get invited to Trinidad Carnival?
Ooh, that's a good one. All right, so Trinidad Carnival for me is a little different. So my family is involved in Trinidad Carnival as well, back home, right? I have family back home. Both of my parents are from Trinidad. So there's that outlet, but also, this business is not solely a meritocracy. Yeah. It's also about building the relationships, to really get into the venues and to the events that you want to be in. And I was fortunate enough to have both the familial connection as well as build relationships with people who end up being big on the scene. And when I was in college, so I went to Howard University, go Bison.
All right.
Yeah, I created some relationships with DJs that would come in from out of the country to play. And from there, just continued building and building and building. And I got my shoe in that way. So I'm not going to sit here and act like I was the greatest DJ out here to just start DJing. I had relationships that were able to help put me on, but I had to make sure that I had the proper skills to translate that to being there and actually prove that I should be there.
Okay. So that's awesome, actually. I mean, awesome. So when I met you, something that came across for me was your demeanor. Like, not saying everybody doesn't have this, but when I came to you and I greeted you and stuff, the way you talked, the way you spoke, it was like, okay, this man is educated. This man is doing something with his life.
Sure.
And I don't think DJing is his prime thing. He's a working person.
Yes.
So what I want you to tell people and people can get to know you better is, so what kind of things do you do when you're not DJing?
Sure. All right. So, again, I went to Howard, graduated with a degree in business, and from there started working for the electric company here in DC in corporate communications. Since then, I transitioned over to consulting. So my full-time gig is a management consultant. So I also have a t-shirt brand, QG Co. All right. Rocking it right now, the hoodie and also the hat. Outside of that, I try to do a little personal consulting, just helping the people that are around my inner circle kind of push their businesses. I feel like I'm surrounded by a ton of super talented people that enough other folks just don't really know about. Yeah. So I'm trying to take whatever resources I have to creatively help, position them in such a way where more people can get to know them.
I might have to talk to you after this.
Let's do that. Let's do it.
So another question where things get kind of dicey with people. How has COVID impacted your DJing? Not necessarily your 9 to 5,
sure.
How did your DJing take a hit from this?
Sure. So DJing actually didn't take too much of a hit because prior to COVID, I started becoming a lot more selective with the gigs that I was taking anyway. So I haven't really played that much as far as publicly. I've done a few Zoom parties here and there and a couple socially distanced small events externally. So it really hasn't affected me too much. I'm also kind of in a transitional period just from a mindset standpoint on what I really want to get out of DJing, right? Like I truly get a lot of fulfillment playing music by myself in my basement. And I don't have to play on every single stage or every single party in order to feel good about music. So I'm just now at a point where if I'm not gonna be fulfilled playing in an event, I don't want to do it anyway. So COVID has been a blessing, but not so much for DJing, if that makes sense.
Okay, all right. So how do you feel about the way the community now is? Because there are people out there that's doing fetes and stuff like that. Are you pro-health or pro money?
So I'm pro health every single time.
Okay.
That said, I don't trivialize the fact that sometimes this is everybody's bread and butter. So I get the need and the desire to go and work. I just hope that everybody's being safe while they work in those spaces. I also believe that for me, because I can only talk for me, when it comes down to it, you know, even from a financial standpoint, I never want anyone to be struggling, but your life is always going to be more important to me than, you know, being on a downturn financially. So, you know, I do have the privilege though to say that because I have another stream of income. So I get it. You know, at the end of the day, I think that, you know, everyone has a difference of opinion on it. I won't be out and about for a while. Just because, I mean, I have family too, right? That I have to make sure is good. So between my health, my son's health, their mom's health, that's the priority for me. So
family first.
Family always first, even when that happens. But nah, family first for sure.
All right, got you. So, where do you see yourself with your DJ career in the future, based on what you've told me so far?
Sure.
So, what can they expect from you? I know you from a couple of different things. When you're a Fete, we'll get into that in a minute.
Sure.
But where do you see yourself in the coming years when COVID dies down and stuff like that? Because there's some people that they really rock with you, bro.
Yeah.
So what can they expect from you in the coming?
I appreciate that. So as one thing, as long as I continue getting hired for Trinidad Carnival, I will be there. Like that is the one time a year, no matter what, I have the most fun playing music, right? Like that is my place. But outside of that, on the real, I think that people should expect to see me at very select events. Again, kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, I'm being really selective. I want to make sure that the events that I'm attached to, their profile is in alignment with what I want to get out of music, not just to make money, because the money's there, but I want that events are also something that when people leave, they remember the experience. Yes. Right? Like, I think we're in a space where we have a lot of events on a regular basis.
There you go.
But you leave and, you know, the event today is the same one from last week, is the same one from the other week before, and the only difference is sometimes either the change of a promoter or a different venue. So from the DJ aspect of it, I mean, people will see less and less of me because of that, but I will throw in there that because I also throw events myself.
Yes, because we're going to get into that too.
Right? Because I throw events myself as well, people will probably start seeing more of my events. I'll DJ for some of them, but I enjoy actually curating events, right? Because I think that there's something to the outlook of a DJ, right? Like, as a DJ, we play according to the time and according to the vibe. Like, we are there to build a vibe, right? And I think that we have a lens that we look through that also helps to truly develop like a really great experience as well, because we understand all the pieces of an event, right? So like from the time you walk in, I want people to experience this to the time they get to the dance floor. And if it's, you know, before prime time, the only responsibility for the people that are there is to kind of rock a little bit, get a drink here and there, right? And just continue building. But I want to build not just from a musical standpoint, but also all the other attributes from the party. So you'll see me out on the Wheels of Steel every once in a while, but like I also, you know, put ego aside and understand that there are very, very talented DJs that I can hire to do what I do anyway, right? And I'll fit in when need be. But for the most part, I just want to create something that can put DC back on the map.
Yo, your humbleness is there. I love that genuine humbleness that you have. So what are some of the fests that you do throw so people can get an understanding of that it's not just DJing for you?
Sure. So Culture Shock Entertainment is the name of my company. I have it with a few other people. But for a Culture Shock event specific, it was Eyes Wide Shut, which was my birthday party. every year. It was always the last Friday of September. So last year was the first year that we kind of rebranded it. So my boys and I put together a speakeasy type of event. And
one of my favorites, by the way.
In an attempt to kind of help build that brand, we rebranded Eyes Wide Shut as a part of the speakeasy vibe. So we have that. My boys and I also used to throw Mojito Sunday, which was also, it became somewhat of a staple in the DMV. I throw a party called Euphoria, which is Thanksgiving, is always the Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
Yep. This shit's gonna be rough, man. Wow.
Yep. Inception, which is always the very first, I think it's the first Saturday in June. That is a champagne inclusive event because I love brunch. So I was like, what can I do to create something that I would actually enjoy going to? So that's really all that's on the table right now, but we got some ideas brewing, and COVID is actually helping us to really put it all on the table and figure out exactly how we're going to launch as soon as all this is done.
I just want to be a plug real quick.
Sure.
So yeah, just think of Fete Finders when you're selling the tickets, man.
I got you.
Right now. Yeah, I heard it first. All right. So, with all that being said, what advice would you give that up and coming entrepreneur, DJ, or promoter coming up? What advice would you give that person?
I would say, first and foremost, like, be hungry, like stay hungry and persistent. Okay. I think in our community, we have a ton of very talented people, but we aren't always the best at cross-marketing within the community, right? Back when my parents were kind of running the Caribbean scene, them and their counterparts were running the Caribbean scene, because they all knew each other and they spent time with each other outside of parties. Everyone knew what everyone did. So it was like, all right, if I need a plumber, I know who to go to, because like that guy who was at my house the other day is a plumber, right?
Yeah.
If I need a lawyer, that guy who was at my house, like, and all those were the aunts and the uncles. Now we're in a space where people have the Caribbean community, but they're somewhat selective in being inside of it, and then they also have their other communities outside. I mean, that's just the way the world is right now, right? Different circles kind of overlap. So to get back to your question, I think that what we need to do is, again, be persistent, but even more importantly than that, like, make yourself known. You gotta be out and about. You gotta talk to people. And I think that what you're doing here is super important, because we need to also create platforms and spaces where people can actively go so that they can share that, hey, I'm a plumber, I'm a lawyer, I'm a doctor, I'm this, so that, you know, when I need something, I can go to a source or a platform and get that, as opposed to, let me just hop on Yelp or Google or whatever to find somebody. Because at the end of the day, I think that relationships are always going to manifest into better working spaces than anything else, right? Like, I'm not going to cold call someone on Google and expect anything more than the bare minimum. But if I know you, I'm going to expect that you're going to go over and beyond, and hopefully you're going to expect that I'm going to also pay for that, right? And it ends up being a good, healthy bartering system in that capacity. Yeah.
So that is exactly what we're trying to do here with Fete Finders, and also the plug. We're being powered by Soundbang Entertainment, and we're trying to bring that aspect back, that togetherness, that knowing that we are all family, and keeping our relations within the community, the money within the community, and just growing from there. So as a community, I want to say thank you for coming, and this is an honor. I appreciate it. I always rock with you, because, like you said, we're not just on this platform. We're on other platforms. We're friends, and I consider you a friend. Shit, I consider you family. So
for sure.
So thanks for coming out. We look forward to seeing what you have in the future, and you know our friendship is tight, and everybody else is that's involved with this. So
Forever.
Thank you again, man.
No problem, bro.
All right, that's it, guys. Tune in for another episode in some days to come. Have a good one. Good night.
Peace.